Okay, sorry about that. We're live again. This is Kelly Kiley. This is Operation Mama Bears, episode 1. I'm here with Stephanie DeGarry. She's the mom of Maddie DeGarry, who was in the Pfizer trials. She's a 12-year-old little girl, and since that time, she's been suffering a lot of medical health issues, and her story is becoming very well known. But certainly, there's a lot of people who don't know who Maddie DeGarry is, and I believe that everybody should know who Maddie DeGarry is. And so Stephanie has been kind enough to join me. I'm going to bring her in now. That's Maddie's mom, and we're going to have a conversation and learn about Maddie and her story. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for coming today.
No problem.
Yeah, so
My pleasure.
Thank you. I really appreciate it because I know that you are super busy. You have so much going on, and yeah, I just appreciate you taking the time. So I would love for you to introduce yourself, and I guess the first question that I'd like to ask you is about Maddie's experience and what happened prior to participating in the trial, and maybe you could just talk about Maddie and what happened prior to and where she was at in her life at that time.
So prior to the trial, when she entered the trial, she was 12 years old. We actually had a friend that had participated in the initial phase for the Pfizer trial at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, an adult. And she had no problems and had found out that she actually had the actual vaccine. And her son, she enrolled her son in it. Didn't force him. He chose to. And my son found out about it through him. My husband and I actually had signed up too for the trial. We didn't realize there was more than one trial going on at Cincinnati Children's. So they weren't just doing the Pfizer trial. They were also doing AstraZeneca. And I believe they're doing Moderna as well. So we got all the communications for it, and then all of a sudden they stopped. And we thought, okay, maybe there was just a lot of people that wanted to be in the trial. And we were both frontline, so we were going to get them early anyway. So we were like, okay, we never questioned it. Turns out it was AstraZeneca, and it's because they stopped the trial. But that's not what they communicated to us. They communicated nothing. But unfortunately, we thought nothing of it. So fast forward, that was around July of 2019, maybe. And then in December, we have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Maddie's the youngest, and then Lucas is the middle, and Gabe's the oldest. And Lucas came home and said, hey, my one friend, I'm not going to name names, said that he's in the vaccine trial. I want to be in it. So there was a monetary, it was a lot for a teenager, not a lot for an adult, and certainly not enough for what we've gone through. Let's just say it's under $1,000 for everything, pretty much. So he said he wanted to participate, and also the other thing is, all these kids, they just wanted this to end. And the way it was being presented back then was, you get the vaccine, you're going to be protected. You don't have to wear a mask. You're going to be safe. So in their heads and ours, they'd be okay, And honestly, I wasn't too worried about COVID. We just wanted it to end. This was the end to the mandate, to being quarantined and everything. So, when we were signing him up, the other 2 who was talking about it, Maddie and Gabe, and asked if they could participate. So, we're like, yeah. Once again, they wanted to be in it, and for us, we didn't feel like we thought this is a good thing. They've had all their vaccines. We never had any issues that we were aware of. And the way, once again, we had no reason not to believe what the government and doctors were telling us, that this was the end. This is the answer. So Maddie, and I'll stick to just her story, but there's a back end story with the boys too, but just to keep it focused on that. The first dose of her vaccine she got and had just the normal reaction that we expected. And they have an app where they log. It's very structured. Like there's no free form, so you just can like it'll ask you, do you have a fever and what is the temperature? Did it require you to go to the ER? Do you is your arm swollen? What's the size? And they give you a thing to measure it. And and then it'll ask, did you have diarrhea? Did it mild, moderate, severe? Did it require you to go to the ER? So it's like all the symptoms that they told you would happen, like the typical ones, like nothing scary. Because the only one that was scary was anaphylaxis. And in my mind, my kids have never had an issue. If that happened, I mean, they're in a trial, like they're going to get the best care. Like if you're ever going to have an anaphylactic reaction to a vaccine, that's the time to do it, and they hadn't before. So we had no cause for concern. So she was fine. And then, so that was December 30th. And then on January 20th, she got her second dose. It was late in the evening, probably around 4 or 5. And my husband took her and the boys. And the first thing she said to me is like, that hurt way worse than the second one. I was like, oh, that's weird. I'm thinking, okay, flu shot, they tell you if you flex your muscle, it hurts more. I'm like, oh, did you flex your muscle? Just missed it. It was my son's birthday. So we went home, had dinner, and it was late by then, went to bed, and she came into our room in the middle of the night and she's like, can I sleep with you? And she's 12. She doesn't sleep with us. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, I don't feel right. She's like, I really I was half awake. I mean, like, basically she was saying, something's wrong. I don't feel right. I'm scared. So I was like, okay. So she crawled in between the two of us, which was even more odd. And woke up in the morning and said, and we're like, if you don't, knowing that she may not feel well, we're like, if you don't feel well, you don't need to go to school. So she is one of those kids that didn't like to miss school because she doesn't want to have to make up the work, because she just wants to get it done, and school's important to her. So she went, and we were like, hey, if you don't feel good, call us. Well, she didn't feel good. She didn't call us. She somehow made it through school, walked through the door. I was at work. My husband works from home, and his office is like right inside the doorway where they come in. She dropped her bag and fell on the couch. And she was in very bad shape. My husband immediately called so you had that trial app and you would record like the normal things that could happen. If anything else happened that was outside of their questions, there's no like, hey, this happened to fill in the blank. You had to call them. So he called, and they called back. And then, so after he called me, he goes, I work at a school. And he's like, Maddie's having some type of reaction to the vaccine. And he goes, I already called the trial line. He goes, but you should come home. And I hear her in the background going, Mom, my heart feels like it's being ripped out through my chest. So I'm a pretty calm person. Like I don't overreact to my kids getting sick. You know what I mean? And that, I was like, that put me over the edge. So I came home. Sorry. And she was like, she could only lay on her stomach. She couldn't lay on her back. She couldn't have her shoes on because her feet were like white, ice cold. She said she had electrical like zaps going up and down her spine. Her heart was like, she said her chest was in severe pain. Her stomach, her lower right, I believe it was, or left, I can't remember, abdomen, wherever your appendix is, was in severe pain. So they called back after about 30 minutes and told us to take her to the ER. They convinced us that we needed to take her to Cincinnati Children's because she would get the best care, and it would be easier for the trial doctor who worked at Cincinnati Children's to be able to access her charts and give advice and everything. So we're like, okay. So it was further away than other hospitals, but that's where we went, to the main one. They did a renal profile, they did an ultrasound of her appendix, and they did a urine test, and that's it. And they give her an IV, Zofran, and I believe Tylenol, and sent her home. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
Did you say Zofran? Zofran?
Yes, Zofran for nausea.
Nausea. Okay, so they're treating her for nausea and pain with
Tylenol.
Tylenol. Okay, and sent her home, even though she was.
So she had blood in her urine, and they did nothing about it. Our doctor was concerned about it and ran another one, and she still had blood in her urine, so they had kind of brought it back to the trial, and they continued to test her, and she continued to have blood in her urine. I think it was 9 times between January and April, and then they just stopped testing it. They at one point said that it was because of her period. All those times. You can't have your period all those times. And I said, well, what is going to prove to you that it's not from that? Because she doesn't have her period every time she comes in here. And they go, well, if they do a catheter. I said, then do a catheter. So they did a catheter, and there was still blood in her urine.
My God, my God. And did she continue to be in as much pain throughout all of this? And
yes.
oh my God. And so at that point, are you still should you have been having oversight from the trial itself, given it was only a few days? Like, did they give you any kind of instructions, or is it just literally?
So the trial, and so we communicated with the principal investigator, which is Dr. Robert Frank from Cincinnati Children's. He's the principal investigator for all these trials, not just the Pfizer. He also was the one listed for the AstraZeneca and continuing trials. And there's another one. I'm pretty sure it's Moderna is the other one that's going on there. And we would talk to him and the nurse all the time and tell him what was going on. She went to the ER. I'm trying to, I've been so long since I've said all the details, but I believe it was 9 times. Yes, 9 between January 20th and the last time that she was admitted to the hospital at Cincinnati Children's, which was February 9th. She had been there 9 times to the ER. She had been admitted 3 times. The first time was in the end of January, and that was for 3 days. The second time was in March, and that was like the middle of March. So during that stay, she had an MRI of her spine. That was the day before the cutoff of the trial for the Pfizer trial for the kids 12 to 15. So that was the last day they could collect data. They somehow magically moved the MRI up. They had waited until March to do an MRI of her spine. When she woke up from the MRI, and it was MRI with contrast, she could no longer go to the bathroom. And when she went to stand up, she fell to the ground. She could not stand. Now, she was having problems walking prior to that. And there were notes in her chart about abnormal gait and everything. So at that point, we left the hospital and she was not able to walk.
Wow. And so could you just say that again regarding the date of the last day of collecting data and where you were at?
Right. So it was on March 12th. I'm pretty sure that's the exact date. I can double check for you. But it was the day before the data cutoff.
Right.
For the Pfizer trial. And then so the other thing, the last time she was admitted into the hospital, and that's when they did the MRI. The last time she was admitted, somebody's coming into my room.
Oh, that's okay.
The last time she was admitted into the ER to the hospital was on April 9th, and that was because she could no longer eat at all. That's when she got her NG tube. And she was That I'm trying to think of. So that was the day before they submitted for the EUA. And that is the day when they put functional neurologic disorder as a diagnosis. The day before the EUA was submitted is when that was put into her chart.
Wow. And did they were they attributing this disorder to the vaccination at this point, or were they suggesting that this was coming, all of these
They
symptoms were coming
blamed it on anxiety.
anxiety with
They
blood and
said it was anxiety and that she had functional neurologic disorder.
right. Were they the functional neurological disorder they're saying was literally coming from the anxiety and then or or separate. Okay. Wow.
So she did not have anxiety prior to this. She does not have anxiety now. They put her on Lexapro, which we were very hesitant about. They started at 5 milligrams, jumped it up to 10. They tried to put her on 20 and we refused it. She's not on Lexapro now. She was in therapy for a month and a half, inpatient intensive therapy, where kids go in there with functional neurologic disorder for 2 weeks, and within 2 weeks, they're walking. That never happened for her. She was in there for a month and a half. They were able to get her to the point where she could walk with a walker. If she didn't have the walker, she'd fall to the ground. Basically because of POTS, the room would spin. She had no stability. They were unable to help her with her swallowing, so she still had an NG tube and was unable to swallow. So their solution was to send her to the psych ward.
Wow. Wow.
So they had convinced and lied to us about that. Made it sound like she would be there for a couple weeks. They're like, we've treated other kids that had similar things where, like, they were saying that because she was so sick that, and because of throwing up, that her body just was rejecting food. We got there and it was horrific. Before she was even admitted, and this was a transfer right from the hospital where they strapped her. I mean, it was bad. And then I said, this is not the right place for her. I said, I'm taking her home. What do I need to do? So they made me sign against medical advice. But I knew that if I had left her there, I wouldn't be able to get her out.
Wow. So what was it like when they were telling you that this was psychological? Was there something inside of you that was like kind of feeling like you wanted to believe them, or you felt like you should believe them because they're the experts? Like, where was your head at during all of these things? I guess you're just trying to get answers.
So my head wanted to believe them because I wanted an answer and I wanted her to get better, and I did trust them. My gut told me something different. I didn't listen to my gut. I listened to my head, which is why I tell my story. And the first thing I tell all these parents that it's the exact same thing happening to them. It's not functional neurologic disorder. It is not anxiety. It is not your kid's fault. There is something real happening to them. Do not let them put them on Lyrica, gabapentin. Do not get an MRI with contrast. Do not let them give them compazine. Do not let them put them on any antidepressants, because what happens, and there's been other kids where they have tried to harm themselves because of the antidepressants they put them on. That Maddie, thank God that didn't happen with, but she had severe reactions to the gabapentin and Lyrica. Both of those she was put on while she was in the hospital, not by our choice. Same with the Lexapro. All these things were started while she was in the hospital, and she had reactions to all of them. And she also had a reaction to the contrast.
And so throughout this whole entire thing, despite the fact that this all came on a couple of days, well, how long was the timing between her reaction? A day, right?
Less than a day.
Less than a
Like
day.
12 hours.
So despite the fact that this is all happening less than a day, did anyone at any point in any of your conversations think or say that this might be an adverse event to
So this is what they did, because she was in a trial. I got sick of hearing it. Well, we don't know if she actually had the vaccine or the placebo. I said, I can tell you which one of my kids had the placebo, because he is not having zero reaction.
Right.
I'm like, she had the vaccine. I'm, you know, and it did note in the first ER visit that it was a reaction to the vaccine, even though they didn't know if she had it or not, but they used that as their excuse. It was, we don't know if she got it or not. She
Mm.
was unblinded. Every kid was, um, in May, whenever the EUA came out.
And you discovered that she'd had it. So,
Yes, she had
so
both. Yes. So you got both doses. Like if you got one, you got both were the not, I mean, you either got the placebo or the vaccine, and she did.
So basically, in your case, and any other parent who's might have gone through what you've gone through, would have they would go to the doctor with these issues,
Hmm.
and no one would be able to tell you or admit that whether like she's had the
They
vaccination.
won't admit it. They will immediately, so they will do the test that they know will either show nothing or something minor that they can explain away.
Hmm.
The one that I've seen in a bunch of the girls is the blood in the urine. There is an 8-year-old that I just now have a new friend, new mom friend. This is my new friends.
Hmm.
Her daughter, blood in her urine,
8 years old,
8 years old. She
and
has
they're trying to
functional. They tried to put her on Lexapro, functional neurologic disorder. They told her she had.
another case of this,
Yep.
the
Oh,
anxiety.
not that's one of many, but this
Right.
is an 8-year-old. A lot of there's been a bunch of 16-year-olds. I mean, it's with the girls, it's very similar to Maddie's reaction. With the boys, it's their heart, and a lot of them are dying.
Right. Wow. And they have with Maddie, like blood in the urine versus a period is two very different.
She didn't even have her period whenever she got her first one 2 weeks after the vaccine.
Oh, okay. So then it came on, and now she's also blood in the urine, and that's why.
No, well, she had the blood in the urine before she even got it.
Oh, I see.
For the
Right.
very first time, for the very first time, it was 2 weeks after, and it
Wow,
was horrible. It was not normal.
what a sin. Oh my God. What about so prior to this, had Maddie had any like describe Maddie before she got her went in for this trial?
She was the Energizer Bunny. She constantly was moving, dancing, walking on her hands. She babysat. She was in talent shows. She emceed a talent show. She I, very straight A's at school, wouldn't miss school. Um, Always helping other people. She was very mature for her age. She, I mean, did very active. She played soccer. She had played volleyball. And she was one of those kids that they wanted her on the team because she was naturally good at sports. Did gymnastics, like rock climb,
Mm.
very active,
And
healthy. She's my only kid that ate vegetables, and she would never drink soda. She only drank water. She like healthy.
she was super healthy, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And so I'm going to go back to your when you were making these decisions to sign up, and just I'd like to like bring us back to that time. And you said that at that time everyone was very tired of
Hmm.
of the pandemic, and we were all looking for a solution. And um, you're saying that they through school they were kind of encouraged, or is that where they found out about it? You said that a school
It
friend.
was a friend. It wasn't through the school itself. The school has actually been very fantastic
Oh, good.
about helping us with her, honestly, and they have not pressured the kids to get it. We're in Ohio. I
Mhm.
don't know if every school's like that. I don't know if they're like that because of her. The
Mhm.
school district that I work for has not been pressuring either. They did do what they were required to do, where they've hold the clinics, but it's not like you need to come, you can't go to school if you don't. If you don't have the vaccine, you have to wear a mask. It has not been like that in either the school I work in or the school that she goes to. They found out because a friend was in the trial. Now it's a different story other places.
Mhm.
Um, the school district, it's not the school district she's in isn't huge. Everybody knew about what happened to her. It was talked about at school board meetings. It wasn't like everybody knew.
Right, right. Because I
And
mean,
everybody knew about her in the district that I was in. So they weren't like they weren't it was neutral in my opinion for those two places. So I can't like say anything bad about either of them.
oh, that's good. At least.
I have witnessed other schools
Mm,
that is not the case.
right, right. Well, at least you had some support with regard to. So you're going through all of these like crazy health issues, and then, I think when I look at what was put on the Pfizer document in terms of how they recorded this, so they're not telling you that they record the data cutoff has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
You has already happened, and then you find out she's unblinded, and
Mm-hmm.
so how is this? How is the report compiled, and how is all of the like? How are all of these hospital visits and all of these symptoms not making it into the documentation? Maybe first tell us what they did list her symptoms as.
Functional abdominal pain, and is it for the numbness that I always for para? I'm looking, Maddie's over here. The paraplegia, I think.
So they
Um, there were those two things listed. That was it. We did have a call with the FDA, and the one thing I asked them was what was reported for her. They were supposed to get back to me, and they still have not.
right. Wow. So you still haven't heard back after all this.
No,
Is there any communication at all?
no, that would, and we even had that meeting. It was with somebody else. It was set up with somebody else. Like
Right.
that was not us specifically. We never got a call from the FDA. We never got a call from the CDC. We never got a call from Pfizer. We have recorded calls where and we have email exchanges that documented where we're asking what was reported about her symptoms and never a straight response. So I did file a VAERS report. That's not the way it works in a trial. The way it works in a trial is you call in like we did, and
Mhm.
you have follow-up visits like we did,
Mhm.
and you tell them the symptoms. They are to report them to Pfizer, and Pfizer is to report them to the FDA.
Hmm. Wow. And so sorry. Uh,
Okay.
part of part of what is happening here is that each time you're going in, like you're not getting any real diagnosis, or you're kind of like being sent off with for nausea and pain, but not so.
Psychiatric is what they
And then
were stuck on.
right.
And that's what's happening to every single one of these other girls
Well, and so
and a lot of adults. Almost all the, no,
yeah.
thousands and thousands of adults. Yeah.
So tell me about that. Tell me about the since okay, well, firstly, maybe you can just tell us where you are now and how things are going with Maddie after all of this time, because it's been quite a while. And what does it what Maddie's life look like now? And you removed her from the psychiatric hospital,
Mhm.
and what's happened since then?
So when we removed her from there, she was never admitted. We went home, and her neurologist. So we were talking to another injured woman who was in the AstraZeneca trial in the NIH. She was seeing somebody from the NIH, and connected us with them who was willing to talk to her doctors. So her doctors that were in rehab were not willing to talk to this man. So we ended up, I messaged her neurologist who was out at the time, and he ended up being willing to talk to him. They did another MRI, this time of her brain. So this is June. So they've not done an MRI of her brain until June. Okay.
Mhm.
It's 5 months later. They're doing an MRI of her brain. When things are going to show up, it's like in the beginning. Right. So, and there was inflammation. They dismissed a bunch of it. And she woke up from that and lost all neck control. So she was walking with a walker. That's as far as they could get her from rehab. She had the MRI with the contrast, woke up. So she's back in a wheelchair. It took us from that was in June until December, I think it was, to get a wheelchair for her. Because all along they're telling us this is functional neurologic disorder, and they said you need to let her, you just need to not give it to her. You're going to make her worse if you give it to her. So she was scooting around on her butt in our house.
Wow.
We ended up getting one at one point. I'm like, I can't do this anymore, and we got one from like a used one, because she needed one to support her head, so you can't just go buy one anywhere. So she got the wheelchair. She still cannot swallow. She still has an NG tube. She is like she's she's not like, her body doesn't digest or absorb any of the nutrients correctly. It just stays there. It doesn't move through her. So her stomach is not working at all. She still can't feel from the waist down. She's still in a wheelchair. She hasn't been able to, I mean, she was going to school for about 2 hours, and we do work at home, what we could. Luckily, she was in honors, so she could just basically repeat what she already did. The year before, we went to another children's hospital. What we found, we went to actually, that would have been the third children's hospital we went to. Any hospital with the Epic system can see everything. So once you have functional neurologic disorder in there and vaccine trial, nobody will touch her.
When you say no one will touch her, what do you mean? They just write it off, so they won't go any
They will
further?
dismiss, and they won't run. They'll run minimal tests.
So it's already basically
It's functional. You're just making her worse by doing this.
So you're
With
when
proven tests.
so making it worse means by coming to ask for help and try to find out if there's other things going on. You are making
that we're feeding into it.
So functional neurologic disorder. I don't know what it is. I've never heard of it before, but it sounds like something functional in the body. It doesn't sound like a psychological disorder.
It's psychiatric. It's basically that your body, normally people that have functional neurologic disorder, and it's not, normally something traumatic happened in their life, a lot of times sexual abuse or something like that. So one thing that they're doing to all these girls is trying to find something like that, but none of them have that. Whoops, I lost you.
Oh, sorry. So the assumption is that something really shady or dark or something is going on in the background, and that is actually
within 12 hours of her getting the vaccine. Yeah. And the same with these other kids. Yeah.
And when you say other kids, can you tell me a bit about that? Like who, now that I mean, I guess you're making connections. You've been going around and explaining what's been happening, Maddie, telling the truth.
We have a group. We have a group on Facebook, and so we have a group on Facebook, and actually the event here in California is focused on kids because of the mandates in California. So.
And so how many kids are you having in your group that know about you?
It keeps lately it's been growing. I don't know the exact number. In the beginning, it was very slow. A lot of parents are afraid to speak out.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of kids don't want to speak out because, I mean, the things that are happening to them are embarrassing.
Right. I see what you're saying. So it's not like,
but I mean, there's even the people where, and there are certain people that are speaking out, like Ernest Ramirez, his son died. There's a lot of people that have children that have died.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've talked to Ernest.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know now about the myocarditis
Yeah.
because I understand that he was playing basketball or sports after, and I think that would have been earlier on before that was well known that the myocarditis is something that's happening in boys, especially.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm trying to keep their privacy. So when I'm saying, I mean, the youngest is 8. This it's a parent group. So there's parents in there that have kids that are like in college, but they're still caring for their kids. So it's a parent group.
Okay, I see. And so are they just finding you because you're out and speaking, or how are you
They are finding they find usually either one of the groups on Facebook in or Real Not Rare, and once they post something, there's enough people out there that they know where to direct them. And I was so overwhelmed. Like there's somebody else that we've asked to run the group that had more bandwidth. I help in the background, so it's yeah.
And actually, you were at this time now, you've sort of left the medical system in Cincinnati, correct? And that you've
Yes, we
find
left Cincinnati Children's. We moved everything, all of her care, out of there in November. I think it was around November of 2021. We moved everything out because they were not, there was no care there. It wasn't. They had her all like, they convinced us to move her primary care there. And we didn't realize that they moved her to the psychiatric group. So their solution is drugging them with like Lexapro. And
wow. And so, have you been able to find any medical help outside of
we
Cincinnati?
have, we are seeing, and I, this is the other thing that I tell doctors is the functional medicine. That's who will help.
Right.
That's who can help. The doctors at the hospitals, I don't know if they don't know what the problem is or if they are not allowed to say what the problem is, so they are hiding it. It's one or the other. I can't I'm sorry, they've got to be smarter than
Mm.
not knowing. I'm sorry.
So,
There's too many tests of hers that have not been normal.
right, right. And so, yeah, because a functional, like it's if it's a psychiatric, like having physiological symptoms that
It's not. I mean, I guess my point with this, and she's behind me and she's getting mad,
hi,
but um
hi, Maddie.
and I don't blame her because it's been traumatic.
Yes,
um
yeah,
yeah,
no,
it's
a
that,
shock.
yeah, it's the fact that it wasn't that, then there's clearly something wrong and there's tests to prove it. And now that other doctors have done even further testing that should have been done,
Mhm.
just showing the mast cell problems, the sudden allergies to different foods and environmental things, that she still has the spike protein in her body, that she has no good bacteria in her gut. That's totally not normal. That she has swollen lymph nodes, that I mean, so many other things.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me that basically there was an unwillingness to look at what was actually going on. It sounds to me that
Their denial,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, and that basically every symptom that you guys brought forward was ignored and put under an umbrella that they could say that it definitely was not on their perspective related to the vaccination when as a parent
Yeah.
you know if your child takes eats something like peanut butter or kiwi when they're younger and they have a reaction, we all know right away what's causing that to happen, right? If they have,
Yes.
it's a normal course of action to go and look at what has changed in your life
Yes.
within the last couple of days, and
Right.
that somehow is not being looked at all. It's everything but that, essentially.
Well, once we met people that had the exact same reaction, adults, it was not that we didn't know that it was from the vaccine, but it was like, and still, even then, I would send them links to the Real Not Rare, to the C19 Vax reactions and the React 19, and they would just, like, they didn't want to have see it. I would send them peer reviewed medical documents. I learned that they're not going to look at anything unless it's peer reviewed. And even then, it's like they totally dismissed it. I'd go to those doctor's appointments so prepared, and I would leave angry.
I mean, whatever people want to call it, I like it's on paper, it goes out and then it's approved.
Hmm.
But if a parent were to know, like whatever label it is, you can call it the disorder that they're labeling it as. But if they were to understand that their child was going to lose their ability to walk, to eat, and be, placed in a feeding tube, like that needs to be communicated effectively that this is what could
Well, it
happen.
can destroy their organs. It can do, it's not just that. I mean, there are physical things that are happening, and it happens right away. And it's consistent with the adults and with the kids.
So you met
It's the same
people,
thing. It's repetitive. It's the same with multiple people. It's not, she's not a one-off. She's not. She just got worse than most because I didn't know any better and I trusted them, and they poisoned her even more, in my opinion. But I couldn't hear you.
for the medications, you mean the medications
Yes,
were
the
causing more?
medications, the contrast. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you said that you read a list of symptoms that could happen to her, which was like anaphylaxis, and
Hmm.
they just basically they didn't give any indication that anything like this could possibly
No, no, no.
happen.
There are documents out there that have things like this listed on there. Neurological problems, gastro problems. Yes.
But at that time, you guys were presented with nothing.
No.
And then,
Neither is anybody else right now.
right, right, in advance. Yeah, I know what you mean. So you're talking about the documents that have been released recently that are sort of listing certain things.
Right. In our informed consent documents, if you want to call them that, yeah. No. The worst thing that could happen was anaphylactic and anaphylaxis. That was it.
Right. And like you said, you're confident that that's not going to happen. Pretty confident. And if she,
Right. And if it did, there's a solution. It's an EpiPen, and she would be in a hospital in a trial.
what did they say in the trial documents when you participate in a trial like this? If she did have complications, is there anything that there's like, are they supposed to help you get help?
Yes. Yeah. It says in there that, if it's anything that's trial related to the vaccine, that it will be covered by Cincinnati Children's Hospital. We just got our bills resolved last month.
When you say bills resolved, what does that
They
mean?
kept calling us trying to collect. We refused to pay.
Right, right,
So they also, because she was in the hospital for over a month, she got the Ohio, I think it's Medicaid. I can't remember if it's Medicaid or Medicare, for a year. So our insurance and the state have paid for her hospital bills, not Pfizer or Cincinnati Children's, with the exception of the stuff that was billed prior to her getting that and us refusing to pay for it,
and so
and
when,
getting other help from lawyers to say we're not going to pay for it.
right, yeah, because it's obvious that this is coming from the
But
back.
it took over a year to get those bills and to stop them from calling us.
Wow, so they're harassing you to pay them while you're going
Yes,
through this.
even after the trial doctor, like months ago, said that those would be taken care of, and then again said that they would be taken care of, and we have recordings of both times.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that the payment issue would be like an admission of
I guess, I don't know. I, I didn't care. We weren't paying for the bills.
no, obviously. Yeah, no,
And if they went to collections, we were going to make a big deal of it because it's not right.
well, absolutely not. And so you've to date never heard from Pfizer, and they were also were they supposed to do anything of compensation or um
It just said Cincinnati Children's because of where the trial was held. I don't know. I have to look. Somebody else had sent me the trial documents from the one in Texas for Pfizer, and theirs were way more information in them than, they're not even consistent. Like, you would think if you're holding a trial,
mm,
like it would be the same trial documents, like no matter what state you're in, but they're all different. They're not the same for Pfizer.
right. What about um, if they had have noted what was really going on, let's say in the Pfizer documents, in the data, in the trials, like what would have happened to their product?
They wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have been approved. It would not absolutely, okay, either it, no, it wouldn't have been approved, number one.
Right,
It
right,
wouldn't have been. And if it was for some bizarre reason, then parents would have seen what could potentially happen to their kids,
yeah,
and they wouldn't have, like, they would, nobody would have allowed their kid to get it.
right. Yes,
So one or the other, but if they would have admitted it, it wouldn't have, there's no way it would have, it would have, they couldn't have approved it.
right.
It was 1 in 1,000. That's not a good odd.
No,
And
yeah,
there were other kids that were injured that they hid as well. You can tell, I can tell by reading the documents. There were 2 kids dismissed because they were on, they basically tried to do the same thing.
right, right. So, and were there issues as severe? Do you know, or
I don't know the people. I can just refer and send it to you. I can
okay,
outline what was in the EUA, the people that were withdrawn from the study or their symptoms were dismissed. These were people that were hospitalized.
wow. And so Maddie today is still confined to a wheelchair. She
Yes.
still is using a feeding tube.
Yes.
You guys have left, as far as I understand, to go get treatment elsewhere to try to get help to get her
Yes.
system back through a new system. And but most people are not being made aware still to this day of what has happened to her, and
No.
it's still being
Even people, I talked to a woman in Florida and her husband who are very involved in trying to get awareness out about the vaccines. Their child actually had been one of the first kids that got HIV from a blood transfusion, have sat across the table from Fauci and know how he is. So they immediately, when this came out, they're like, this is not, they knew. They had, and they have like a bus where they had funding and everything, and they go all over the place, like talking about this. And they had never heard about this. And all they're talking about is kids,
wow.
vaccine injured, like, and with the COVID vaccine, they had never heard about her.
What was the reaction? So it sounds like from the hospital and the sort of officials that you're getting kind of ignored, minimized, sort of gaslit is a word that a lot of people who have
Mm-hmm.
been vaccine injured are bringing up when they're going to the hospital and being made to feel.
100%.
Mhm, mhm. Is
Yes.
that your community, family, like
So I have not, a lot of people have experienced that with their family. I, I can't say that, I mean, we did have a lot of, my dad got the vaccine. He actually ended up having a reaction to it too. He has severe tinnitus after me begging him not to. He
mhm,
now understands.
mhm,
I did have other relatives that did get the vaccine. I actually had another cousin that was injured by the vaccine, and she is very ill. She has lesions all over her body, like not good. That was not, that was Moderna. But I guess my point is, I had relatives that got the vaccine, but they never like said, "Oh, that didn't happen to Maddie." I think it's just everybody just wanted it to be over, and they thought, "Okay, it happened to her. Things can happen. It's not going to happen to me." I know that's messed up. Now, my mom did not get it. My sister didn't get it. Her son did. Like a lot of my family members did not get it. And a lot of our friends and like there were a lot of people that did not get it because of her.
right, right.
It was the
Yeah,
people that thought they were high risk or the ones that did.
right. Well,
A
there was
lot of, like, there were a lot of kids that did not get it that we knew because of her.
right. And so in your immediate circle and in your immediate community, people could see, right? So
Yes,
they know.
we did not have any. I never felt like we we weren't believed by them, like people that we knew.
Right,
People online were horrible.
right. Mhm.
I mean, the comments are horrible.
I can imagine I can only imagine because I remember I was following when after the vaccine was approved, and then there was groups that would pop up that would get to 40,000, 100,000,
Hmm.
and then they would disappear. And
That's
either,
because Facebook shut them down.
yeah, yeah, and people were just literally asking questions, and this is happening to me. Did this happen to you? So these are clearly people who are vaccinated, therefore not anti-vaxxers, right?
Yep.
That were
Anti-vaxxers don't allow their kids to be in a trial, in case anybody wondered.
right, yeah. But now you're part of the anti-vaxxer
Yes.
movement.
Anti-vaxxer means something happened to somebody that you know or love, or, it doesn't have to be your own kid. It's somebody that you knew. It basically means you know the truth and you were ignored and gaslit and got no answers. So now you're afraid and you're not going to get your kids vaccines anymore, because why would you?
Mhm, mhm. And the thing is, like most people who are not getting the vaccine now, this vaccine, I mean, but you can't really compare. Like, firstly, there are people who are anti-vaxxers from previous, but
Yeah.
this is a whole different circumstance, like that you can't even possibly compare.
Well,
Because
the thing is, you find when you talk to these parents, it's the same thing. A lot of it's
oh, you mean from the
similar reactions.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Except for they were alone. It's
right,
an autoimmune response. Your immune system's attacking itself.
right, right.
It's, and now this one, I know there's more complexities to this, but the one I hear the most is the MMR and the HPV.
Right.
Those are the two.
So now you mean that you're seeing when you're talking to other families who are speaking out about those particular vaccines, it's because the symptoms are quite similar to what.
Yes.
Right, right. Interesting. Okay. But,
Yes.
but the technology is completely different.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. I think this one adds a whole new thing where it's with the spike protein where it's not going away. So I think it's making the initial reaction similar, but it's like it's different yet the same, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like in the beginning, it's like the loss of the leg control, those types of things.
Right. So basically this has happened historically,
It
where
appears.
yeah, it seems like it has.
Yes.
Right. Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. That this is new for me to hear that.
It's just being because a lot of people reach out to you
Mhm. Mhm.
trying to help, and that's when you're like, oh, I just think that there is more people vaccinated with this all at once,
Mhm.
and it's very strong,
Right.
and it's injuring a lot more people, both adults and kids.
And I think that people who now that they've approved it and they are putting it out en masse, and people are saying that there's a lot more injuries, obviously, for this one than any other.
Oh yes,
The
and
combined.
there's people that weren't injured with the first two, and then they get the booster, and that's what put them over the edge. I don't know the rhyme or reason to it,
Mhm.
but it's like there are people that have been fine. Like Maddie was fine with the first one. It was the second one. There are
Mhm.
people that were. It was the first one that this happened to them with. I don't know if it's how it's administered. I don't know if it's because of like there's not the dosing. I don't know because they've never tried to figure it out.
Right.
But
Right.
there's people that have been fine with two doses and bragged about it. And I mean, 'cause they'll come and they like you come with your tail between your legs, kind of like we did. Like, oh my God, you know, they're like, I was fine. And they would talk, say I was fine. And then they get the booster and then they're not fine.
Wow. What about the same and people today? Those people are also experiencing a similar reaction.
Yes.
Go to try to
Yep.
help. Correct.
Yep. There's more and more people that are being added to these groups. And there are a lot that are just starting off and it's miserable in the beginning.
And are any of them finding more support from their medical systems?
Nope.
Really? Yeah.
Nope. If you put COVID vaccine, this is my understanding from some of the whistleblowers, the medical community whistleblowers. If you put a diagnosis of COVID vaccine injury, the insurance won't pay for it.
Mm.
They will pay for a psychiatric F&D. They will pay for a COVID diagnosis. They're, I mean,
Within the hospitals.
within the hospitals with insurance. That's what the whistleblowers have said.
Right. I see. Okay. What about what in terms of support, what how can people firstly, what is your aim, I guess, in sharing Maddie's story? What are you
To
trying to get across?
For Maddie, it's the kids in that with parents, a lot of extra damage was done to Maddie, and if I would have understood the whole functional medicine and the damage that some of the medications that you just want a quick fix, there's no quick fix for this. There's not. And what you think are quick fixes are going to make your child worse. And it's very difficult when you're the parent. It's different than when it's where this is happening to adults. Like,
Mhm,
you're the parent and you have to make the decisions. And a lot of times they're not even letting you make the decisions. They're just doing it.
mhm,
Like with the Lyrica, with GABA, these are really strong, toxic medicines.
mhm,
And the antidepressants, like you don't put teenager, like young, she wasn't even a teenager or an 8-year old on an antidepressant. You don't do that.
mhm, mhm. They're dangerous.
Yeah. So,
Mhm,
and then also just understanding that I don't know if it's because the state her body was in, but the contrast, like all these things. I mean, so for me, it's I want to prevent if because there's more kids that this is happening to. If this happens to your child, do not believe them that's functional neurologic disorder because you're going to waste your time. It's basically getting them to get help quicker than we did because otherwise they will get to the point that she's at and that doesn't have to happen.
mhm.
And you're not going to get help in a children's hospital. That's not going to be where it's at.
Right. I see. And how did you find the functional medical? Like, how did you come to this? Like, did someone
There were
recommend?
people that reached out to me before, but I didn't know enough about it.
Mhm, mhm.
I I trusted what I knew. But it's through learning the hard way and then um, finding somebody willing. Like, the challenge has been a lot of these functional medical doctors want to treat remotely, and you can't do that with the kids. So we had to find somebody that was willing to do it
Mhm.
in person and to monitor her the whole way because that's what she needs.
Wow. And so you're experiencing that now. What does that look like?
Yes,
So functional medicine is more like a holistic way of treating, right? They incorporate some traditional medicine and some
right. Yes.
natural
Yes. Yes.
and
But it's also about hydrating, is about vitamins. Um, and where there is a need for medicine, then you use medicine, but you avoid. My experience with her has been that any medicine she took either didn't help or it made her worse.
right, because I guess her system is was already
It's
overloaded.
it's yes.
Right. I have your Life Funder down below, so if people are listening and they wanna help, so, they can go to
Yes, it's
Life
not covered
Funder.
by insurance either. That's another
Got
challenge. I mean, it's yeah.
But your Life Funder also explains everything that she has been through, and also,
Hmm.
like, if people wanna go and read your story,
Yeah.
and also it explains, like, all of her symptoms right now, which she has a lot of symptoms to this
Yes.
day, right? Like, it's
Yes. It's not any better.
no. And so what does like, what kinds of what does your day look like these days?
She, I mean, she's very resilient.
Mm.
She's going to kill me right now.
Maddie, you just
And
mhm.
I mean, she needs, she can't transfer herself. She can't eat. She has everything's through her NG tube. Um, it's, I'm sorry, she's in the background. And if I
Yeah,
keep
sure,
talking,
sure. I'm sorry. Sorry, Maddie. Sending you lots and lots of love. You're a true hero, and we're gonna try to support you in every way we can, and we're gonna get through this for sure. So I just want to send you lots and lots and lots of love, and we're gonna make sure that people hear about what's happened to you and help you on your path to
no,
heal.
I appreciate it. We're, yeah, one room and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so you guys are at the Defeat the Mandates rally this weekend. You want to tell us, like, if you want to tell us how we can support you, what people need to know, what you guys are doing to sort of get the word out there, anything that we can do would be.
So if you I think if you Google it, it'll come up. I don't know the exact website. The Defeat the Mandates. It is
California?
California. It is focused on kids, and it will be live streamed. So if you're not in California, I'd highly recommend watching it and sharing it and just educating yourself. So there also is a huge focus. There is an organization called React 19, and this is an organization that was created. It's a nonprofit, registered and everything, by vaccine injured adults, and a bunch of them are doctors that were injured as well. And the React 19, they'll have on there the exact, there's a text that you can do to support. They have a fund for vaccine injured where they can apply. Like, there's a whole process. It just was launched, I think, yesterday, to be able to get funding. Because once again, a lot of the treatment is not covered by insurance. A lot of people are losing their jobs. Like, I can't work right now. I'm not working because I had to, I'm on a leave of absence. So it's just, we're on a single income. So it's like, it's a challenge. So this React 19 is something where people can get extra funding to help cover medical expenses. So that's a big thing that they will be pushing as well.
Okay, that's great. I'm so glad yeah, I spoke with them. Actually, I know that they have a program where they're starting to be able to financially support. And
Yep, exactly it. Yep.
Yeah, and so your Life Funder, people can go to that. It's
Yes.
www.lifefunder.com/Maddie, Maddie, and so basically now you're in the functional medicine. And is there anything else that I don't want to keep you up all night because I know you're in one room and you're in California, you're on the move.
No, I mean, it's either one of those. I mean, I'm one of those people, I've hard time going towards us, but the one for Maddie is specifically for Maddie. We definitely have a lot of additional expenses and loss of income, so any help is appreciated. And what we have committed to is, if there is any money raised beyond what we need for medical expenses, that we will be rolling it over to the React 19. We have no intention of making a profit from this at all. Not that anybody would think it, but that's where any of the extra money would go, is to React 19.
And you guys, you've held,
and that's in the Life Funder. It says that.
Yeah, I know that you guys have, you've had a lot of people who have rallied behind Maddie and trying to give her support, especially in the community of people who are experiencing similar things or are aware of this. You've declined getting help for a really long time.
Yes.
I think I know that I've been hearing that. We also, I will mention that we have a project that we are launching, and I don't know if you've seen it, but basically, there's a really great guy here in Canada who thought that maybe we could utilize NFTs and cryptocurrency. I'm not a crypto person, but to take the, I guess, the movement of the truckers up here in Canada, and the action of starting to give voice to people like Maddie and people who are either losing jobs or who have been injured and are being silenced, to try to bring solutions. And that NFT project, 80% of the proceeds are going to go to initiatives like hopefully React 19 would be great to connect with them, but initiatives like that are working in the space of helping with job loss, helping vaccine injured, and helping people and helping with mental health. And we have a special one that we're going to do with Maddie.
Yes.
And 100% of the funds for her NFT are going to go to the Life Funder. So we're going to, I think, really launch that on the 20th, and then we'll open up the NFT for that, and it'll be open for 2 weeks, and end on the 4th, which is at the Children's Defense International event. We're going to keep it going for those 2 weeks where the bids will be taken, and then will benefit Maddie. So that's a kind of creative initiative that we hope can really help. So we're really happy to connect with you. And I don't know, did you see the promo that we did? Because I can share that with you if you want.
I think, I don't know if it was the final one or not. So yeah, that'd be great. I'm not sure if it was the final one.
Okay, let's see. I'll just share my screen here and see if we can pull that up. Yep. Okay, that's it. Share, and then I'm going to oh, okay. Here it is. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just start this. Can you hear it?
I don't think so. I can see it.
Oh, really?
Oh, now I can. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. I don't know. I hope that you could see that okay.
Yes. No, and they did an awesome job. That is the one I saw, and they did a really nice job on it. So thank you.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to share? Because I want to keep you up too long. But we're so glad that you took the time. I know you're so busy with traveling around, and especially all the medical attention that you're getting for Maddie right now. And we're praying for her. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I can't think of anything right now. You always think of things later, but not right now.
Well, we'd love to chat with you again. So if you ever, later on, maybe after, we're going to also have somebody live stream the Defeat the Mandates. I think we're going to have here on Grandpa Tone's welcome to Grandpa Tone's page. I don't know if you've met him yet. I'm sure he'll interview you. He has a big audience, and they would love to speak with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Get word out about your Life Funder, and you'll get lots and lots of love and support from that group of people. So thank you so much for coming. We're thinking of you. I'm just going to pull this up. Yeah. And thanks for telling the truth and trying to let people know what can really happen. And really appreciate it. And we're sending you lots and lots of love.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about our story. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Take care, and we'll be looking out for you this weekend. Okay.
Yes.
There. Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in. That was really, really appreciated to hear from Stephanie, and we will be following Maddie's story and bringing more information about what is happening with her and what's happening at the Defeat the Mandates rally this weekend. And please visit her Life Funder and Google her name, Maddie Garay, to learn more about what has been happening since she participated in the Pfizer trials, and pass the word along, because I think parents and everybody deserves to know what is going on with people who participated in the trial and who have been vaccine injured following the trial. So thank you very much, and we'll be back with more soon.